Hey guys, this is Mike with Riding in the Ozarks, and today we're going to look at my first ride video on a Honda Rebel 1100 DCT model. But before we do that, I want to give a special thanks out to Stahlman's Powersports. They didn't sponsor this video, they didn't try and influence me in any way. They basically just gave me the keys and let me go ride a brand new motorcycle and said have fun. So in return, I want you guys all to know, they're a great Powersports dealer. They sell Honda, Kawasaki, Polaris, ATVs, side-by-sides, motorcycles, dirt bikes. So if you're in the market for any of that stuff, there'll be a link to their website in the description down below. Check them out. If you go in there, if you want to buy this Honda Rebel, make sure you let them know that I sent you. All right, we're going to take this Honda Rebel 1100 DCT model for a test spin. Here we go. And there she shifted to second. We're in third. Fourth at 40 mile an hour. Well, I had people ask me about the ergonomics on it, and I can say that I feel like my knees are a little high. I am not a tall guy. I'm 5'8", maybe 5'8 and a half. I'm under 5'9". I'm a little heavy. I'm at 200 pounds, but the knees seem a little high for me. Gripping them into the tank ain't bad, but again, the way the foot pegs are, I feel like my feet are out and my knees are in when I get on the tank. I want to reach for the shifter. I want to get my foot under the shifter before I go for the clutch, and there's no clutch. So we're in fourth gear, 47 mile an hour. We are in sport mode, which means this thing should not shift until it needs to. Now we're at 60. We're at 41. I got my buddy Jordan riding along with me so we can get some more footage of this bike. All right. Well, I'm going to crank it up. Well, there was 74 in fourth gear pretty quick. Here's our first good turn at 70 mile an hour. And somebody wanted to know how the power was at 65 or 70. And I can tell you, it does not feel like it lacks for power. Now, I'm 210 pounds, 220 pounds. It's a 510 pound bike, so we're looking here at about 730, 740 pounds. All right, here we go. So, yeah, at 75 mile an hour, it's got no problem climbing right on past that to 80. It pulls hard from 60 to 80. Somebody wanted to know how it felt for power. Now, I am in the sport mode, so it'll flat get after it there, I will say that. When it shifts down and pulls, it really pulls. Yeah, I don't know, the clutch thing, somebody wanted to know how I would feel about that with the clutch and things like that, so it's yeah, I'm glad he wasn't after me. What I started to say with the clutch thing, I have a four-wheeler that is clutchless. You just shift it, paddle shift basically with thumbs. So I've got a little experience shifting without a clutch. So I'm not like totally freaking out about it. It's really not that hard to get used to. But like I said, it's not a brand new thing for me either. So at this point in the first ride, we stopped at an empty parking lot that's a little bit off the highway. I wanted to play around with the DCT in the parking lot and really try some slow speed maneuvers. I watched a few videos on the DCT because I wanted to make sure I knew how to operate the modes before I actually got on the motorcycle. But one of the things I didn't see discussed or talked about in any of the videos I looked at was how the DCT affects the motorcycle at slow speed maneuvers. Generally, the place I find that people drop a motorcycle is in a parking lot or a driveway, doing slow speed maneuvers where they have to turn the motorcycle. You know, they're usually working the clutch, the brake, and the gas. And something happens and they lose their balance and the motorcycle is hard to hold up. I have to say, I was quite surprised at how much easier slow speed maneuvers were when you didn't have to worry about the clutch. I'm sure the clutch is probably the most complicated part of the equation, but you take that out and it's quite simply a lot easier to manage. You can do really slow, fairly hard turns, and all you have to do is pretty much keep the motorcycle up straight, put a little pressure on the brakes so that the bike is under tension, and give it just enough throttle to keep it moving. And it did wonderfully. We even played around and did a little bit of a slow ride challenge just to see how it did. All right, we're gonna head back toward the dealership, but I'm gonna start out in rain mode, which is the least amount of power. It'll be the drasticest change from the sport mode I started in, and then we'll switch to standard mode before we get there. All right, here we go. Okay, when I roll on the throttle in rain mode, you can definitely tell it doesn't have the same level of pickup as it does in sport mode, but I wouldn't say that it's shabby. I think it does what it's intended to, which is keep you from getting yourself into trouble in adverse weather or road conditions. Now, let's switch this thing over to standard mode, and we'll do a roll on the throttle again. This time, I'm going to start at a little higher speed, and we are going uphill. So this will give us an idea of what it's like for passing power when you pull out at highway speeds. When I found out I was going to get to do a first ride video on this Honda Rebel 1100, I put a post out on my community page on YouTube, and I asked my subscribers what kind of questions they would like to see answered in a video. What did they want to know about the Honda Rebel 1100? Please hang around to the end of the video, and I'm going to answer as many of those questions as I think I can based on the limited amount of time I had to ride this bike. All right, guys, we've got the Rebel 1100 DCT model back here at Stahlman's Powersports on the south side of Rolla, Missouri. If you're looking to buy this bike, they have one in stock. It is for sale. Come in and see them. Tell them that Riding in the Ozarks sent you. You saw it on YouTube. I really appreciate it. Let them know that you appreciate them giving me the opportunity. The bike has less than 10 miles on it. I didn't ride it a lot. It is, something they're trying to sell, so we're not going to put a ton of miles on it. But I rode enough to get a good impression of it, and I rode it around the parking lot some, and I have some thoughts about the slow speed capabilities of the bike and some other things. So I'm going to kind of go home and put my thoughts together, and I may do another video on that. My first impressions though are it shits and gets for around town. If you're looking for a commuter or an afternoon ride bike, it's an absolute great option, and it's got the power. It does. I was surprised and impressed. It does well. Let's go take a look at the dealership. I think my buddy from Law Tigers is in here. Let's see if we can go find him.
What's up?
This is my buddy Malcolm with Law Tigers of Missouri. If you guys see him at any motorcycle events, make sure you stop and say hi and check out Law Tigers. These guys are great sponsors of motorcycle events and stuff, and they're great attorneys for motorcycles if you need one. So just holler at this guy if you see him out. He's a great dude. He's always got stuff to give away too.
We appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, our first question comes from a member, Robert Lassiter, and he asked how weird it feels to go from a clutched motorcycle to the DCT model. Well, I can say when I first got on the bike, it felt strange. I wanted to reach for the shifter, I wanted to reach for the clutch. After a few minutes, I was past that, and I really didn't have any problems with it consistently. I mean, it was strange at first, for just a few minutes, and after that, I was able to adapt. The next question is from fellow YouTuber Quasi-Motard. It would be helpful to hear your opinion on the ergonomics along with your rider specs, height and weight. I have a Rebel 1100 DCT, and many viewers have asked if it is comfortable for taller or larger riders. He's 5'7" with 170 pounds. He says the ergos are decent for him, but the leg and knee angle might be annoying for long highway trips. As I mentioned in the video, I felt like my knees were a little bit high off the beginning, and I kind of agree it would probably get uncomfortable on long rides. Short commutes, less than an hour, are probably doable, especially if your height or inseam is less than mine. Now, the thing that concerned me the most and I felt most uncomfortable about was the fact that, like, when I got on the bike and I wanted to squeeze the tank with my knees, the bike is narrower at the top than it is at the bottom, and I really felt like I had to bring those knees in a long way, a lot more than I'm used to. I'm used to being like this and bringing the knees in a little bit and you're gripping the tank. On this one, it seems like your feet are out here and you really got to lean your knees together tight to get a hold of that tank. I don't think cutting an indent in the tank was a good idea. It just makes the tank narrower, gives it less capacity, and I don't think it's doing anybody any good because I think the average riders are not going to find that it benefits them by having a cutout in the tank. Now, back onto the foot peg thing, because I think that is the biggest problem here. I'm assuming the foot pegs are placed wide, maybe particularly on the DCT model because of the clutchless transmission, but basically, you know, I find it uncomfortable to ride like this, my feet out wide and my knees in. And I think they also brought the foot pegs up to accommodate that 34 degrees of lean angle, and I think that's a problem. If you're buying a cruiser, you shouldn't be worried about 34 degrees of lean angle. This isn't a sport bike. If you want to know how far you can lean it, go get a sport bike or a naked bike. If you're buying a cruiser, it should be about comfort first. Do not sacrifice comfort to get 34 degrees of lean angle. The average cruiser buyer is not going to be all that excited about that. The guys that are excited about that are the guys that ride naked bikes and super sports who think they might want a cruiser and don't want to sacrifice that lean angle. The next question comes from Torque and Beans. He wanted to know if it felt like a more powerful bike for a shorter person or a step up for a beginner bike. Well, it is definitely a powerful bike for a shorter person in sport mode. Could it be a step up bike for a beginner? Depends on how you classify a beginner. I would say anybody with less than a year's of experience should be very cautious on this bike. Even in rain mode, they could get away from it. It has plenty of power. Now, if they are a good, sensible rider that's put several thousand miles on and been riding for a year or more, then they could probably step up to this. They could leave it in rain mode till they get used to the throttle and things like that, and then work their way up to the standard mode, and eventually put that baby in sport mode where you can go out and really tear up the twisties. I really think it's a bike that you can progress through if you have a little bit of experience and you're not a brand new beginner. Robert B. said, how does it feel at highway speed? Do you feel comfortable at, say, 75? Well, I think I showed that in the video, but yeah, I was comfortable at 75. I was comfortable at 85. Of course, I didn't ride them for a long period of time at that speed, but I did not feel like the bike was wobbly or unstable at any point during the ride. Our last question comes from BMP72. Many riders concentrate on suitability for new riders, DCT features, etc. But no one discusses whether in general the DCT is more enjoyable than a manual on a long tour, and whether the Rebel 1100 is just an all-around nice bike. Many videos discuss suitability for this or that and blah blah blah, but no opinion about whether it's a nice bike or not. Well, I didn't get to do a long tour on it, and that may be why nobody wants to say too much on that topic until they've really ridden it some. Some of these channels that have an 1100 probably are going to be able to answer that after a few months, but I don't think the DCT would be an issue on a long ride. I don't know if it would make it more enjoyable. I don't find on a long ride that I'm particularly shifting a lot unless I'm in a long ride at Twisties, which is kind of a dream come true. But as far as the other question, it is an all-around nice bike. I really think the sweet spot will be for people who are 5'8" or less who won't get cramped up on this bike too quickly. They can really get out and enjoy it. I hope that answer suits you. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you do that YouTube thing, check out the content on my channel. And if you dig it, don't forget to subscribe down below. Ring that bell to be notified the next time I drop a new video. And as always, thank you for support. Stay safe and keep on riding.